Marriage and money. How do we bridge the gap to make beautiful financial music? My name is Carmen.
And I'm Darius. And that gap is bridged as soon as you say I do, because then the IRS recognizes your household as having two incomes instead of one.
That's the simple explanation. In this video, we actually wanted to share our story as far as how Darius and I came together to manage our finances, because we recognize that over 50% of marriages end because of financial turmoil. And so we figured if we took the time to share our story and how we made it work, it may help those of you who are also maybe trying to have conversations with your spouses and maybe not as productive as they could be. So hopefully you learn from our story and maybe can take some things that work for you.
Right. Now, I would say early on in our marriage, the conversation around money was very emotional. And that's one thing that I've learned over the years is we shouldn't be emotional with our money, because then we start making mistakes, which is exactly what happened for us initially. We were just out of college. Well, not just out of college. We've been out of college for a few years, but bringing our incomes together means that we're basically able to double our household income, and we're able to do some of the things that we weren't previously able to do. So first off, what you want to do is do those things. And when you're first married, you want to have the white picket fence. You want to have the new house and the new cars. And those are the things that we did. But we realized that this isn't just what we wanted to do, because that lifestyle kept us in that house and working at those same jobs for 30 years. Then our goals change. Yeah. Now, the reason why I bring up goals is because when our conversations stop being emotional around the things that one person is doing or not doing, and we focus on the things that we can do together, like our goals, it changed our conversation. Yeah. It made it less emotional because we were looking at black and white numbers. On a journey to where we're trying to go together, versus looking at numbers and saying, okay, we don't have enough money to pay for the dinner that we're keep going on. It's every single month we're spending $1,000 in dinner. Both of us are eating, but it's one of the other person's fault. That it doesn't make for a good conversation to solve the problems that you do have. Yeah.
So let's break all of that down, because there's just so much history, I guess I could say, in what you just shared. So what I would say, well, at this point, as of today's video, we would have been married 10 years this year.
9 years. It's 2022.
Oh, you're right. We have one more. Okay, so 9 years. I'm rushing it. So we have a little bit of experience. And I would say that it was the first 3 years that we were working this out. And it really was one of those things that we were aware of. I think that's the thing too, is like Darius and I went into this relationship knowing that at some point we would have to have this conversation of money and come together. Whereas I don't know if a lot of couples do have that conversation. Right. Because we've said it many times on other videos. We had an uncle that said, if you want a successful video, you have to know how to share a bathroom.
A successful marriage.
I'm sorry, a successful marriage. We're recording a video. If you want to have a successful marriage, you need to be able to share a bathroom and share a checkbook. And so that was always kind of like in the back of our minds. It was like, all right, one day we'll tackle that. And we kept kicking the can down the road. And it wasn't until I would say Darius and I just kind of got fed up with being fed up, because we were working corporate jobs. We were stuck in the Houston horrendous traffic every single day, and just really only seeing each other like maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, because we were up at the crack of dawn, home late at night, having dinner kind of together, but not in the sense of like our bodies were there, but our minds were so fried. And then we just realized like, this isn't what we wanted for ourselves nor our marriage. We like each other. We like spending time together, and we're not able to spend the time that we want to spend together. And so, one of my coworkers just happened to talk about how to get out of debt and what he's doing to get out of debt. And so I came home and told Darius about it. He was like, let's look into it. And that made us pull all the numbers out and look at what we were dealing with, because up to that point, we just split our bills. Darius paid half, I paid half, and we made it work.
Right. We were basically roommates. We had our own separate accounts, and we kind of did basically what we wanted to do, instead of coming together and identifying the most important things to get us the biggest bang for our buck. So I said that to say that our money management wasn't together. It was separate. Yeah. And when we started bringing our forces together, what we thought that we should do is we should go out and make more money. in which that's what happened. I was at the time I was an engineer, and Carmen, she was also working in a very, very good job. I think at the time you were at Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And I was at Hewlett Packard at the time as an engineer. But the thing is, we figured, okay, if we want to accomplish some of these goals that we listed out here, we need to make more money. So that's what I did. I went and got another job that I made significantly more money. But what happened was, it didn't solve our problem, because about a year and a half later, 9 months later, I got laid off. And what that made us realize that problem is, it wasn't the fact that we needed more money. It was the fact that we needed to manage the money that we had better than we were doing.
Ooh, that's nuggets. Did you hear that? It wasn't that we needed more money. We just had to manage the funds that we had.
Right. So,
and I think that was the clarity that we had on Darius being laid off was devastating, but then also like the biggest lesson, one of the biggest lessons that we can say that we've had now is because we recognized how much money we had to play with, as opposed to having a scarcity mindset of just like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We looked at it abundantly of like, okay, we're good because we've done the work and have been well into Financial Peace University and understanding budgeting. We actually recognize that my income could carry us. But before having that conversation, we didn't really know that.
Right.
And so once we got to the point where Darius got back on his feet with corporate America, we shifted where his income was our primary, and then we saved all of my income. So we just started looking at things differently as far as how we could attack our debt. And that's why we were able to pay off the first round of debt so quickly, is because we just took an entire salary at it and paid it off.
Right. Now, one thing that we learned in this journey initially is the fact that traditionally, up until the Industrial Revolution, there was only one person in a household making money. And then the conversation shifted once women started getting into the workforce, and they were saying that you need to have a dual income. But one thing that we learned is that that's not necessary. That wasn't necessary for us to have two incomes coming into our household. We actually made more money by just having one income.
Does
that make sense? And we made more money by having one income coming into our household versus two.
That's loaded. How are you going to unpack that one?
Well, it's because of how much we paid on taxes. We paid significantly less on taxes, and then we were already saving one of our incomes anyway. So it just worked out for us.
Yeah. Now, before I would even say we got to this point, the clarity that Darius and I needed to understand was that we had two completely different ways of thought, schools of thought. And we've talked about it before, like our mentalities going into this. I had more of an abundant mindset, and Darius had more of a scarcity mindset, and we had to figure out how to bridge the gap together, because I always saw money as abundant, and he always saw money as scarce and not available. So that caused a lot of issues at the coffee table when we're trying to budget and plan and things like that. And that's where Darius had alluded to earlier. We had to come together and talk about, okay, what is it that we're trying to accomplish? Regardless what you think or what the next person thinks, what do we want to do together? And then how can we work together to get there together?
Right. So
and
basically
it became less of an attack.
Right. Basically what you're saying is, I was saying that we need to cut, and what you're saying is we need to make more.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
That's all it was.
Yeah, that's all it was. And so what we recognized was we started putting goals together, like what makes us happy? What are the things that we like doing? Traveling was one of those things. Eating out was one of those things. So we put a budget together as far as how much money we were going to allocate for traveling, because we had certain places we wanted to visit. How much were we going to allocate for eating out, because we had certain restaurants we wanted to go to and didn't want to have to feel like we had to skimp at the restaurant.
Right. And then after being laid off, how much money do we need to set aside so that in the event that I get laid off again, or one of us get laid off again, we won't be hurting for any money?
Exactly. So once we had those conversations, the ego shift changed, where it wasn't, I was right, he was right, nobody's right, blaming this. It just became, why did you spend, or not why did you spend, because that's an attack. Like, hey, we have $100 charge on Target. Where is this going to come from? Is this going to come, and because this wasn't planned, is this going to come from the travel budget, or is this going to come from the eating out budget? And then just changing the language around really helped us to not feel attacked, and just of like, hey, we said we wanted to go here, now this is going to set us back a month. So it was cool, but what are we doing here?
Right.
So I would definitely say for married couples or those who are in a relationship trying to figure this out is figure out your goals. What are the common things that you all want to do? And then put your numbers together to figure out how can you accomplish those even faster.
Right. And I know one thing, as I was growing up, it was a one-sided conversation because one parent made significantly more money than the other parent. So it was hard for the parent making the more money to have a conversation amongst each other as equals, even though the one that wasn't making as much money was handling all the bills. So I think that's a big issue that goes into a lot of couples when you have you have to make financial decisions based on the fact that not everybody's bringing the same amount of money to the conversation.
Yeah, but everyone has the same role. Like, instead of letting your paycheck be the role and, who has the bigger kahunas, it's you both come into this equally because you both are contributing equally. It may not be monetarily, but you're both contributing equally to the household.
Right.
So how can you let those notions go and say, hey, if I'm making, 50 and you're making 80, or I'm making 50 and you're making 100, I'm still contributing.
Yeah.
So I need input, I need say.
And it's also the fact that everybody needs to be responsible, because a lot of times what happens if somebody's making more money, they feel like I should be able to go and do whatever I want. And they don't want to talk about finances because they're trying to hide something. They're trying to hide those brand new shoes that they put under the clothes in the closet, or whatever it is. So if we're trying to hide something, it's always going to come to light, but it doesn't serve us by spending money and not telling the other individual. If anything, it takes you further and further back from the goals that you want to accomplish, because not only have you spent the money, but you lost your opportunity to earn money on that money also.
That's a good point. And I never really thought about that at all. And then I'm trying to think, like, did we go through that? I don't necessarily feel like we went through that.
No, but I've seen it a lot of times.
You see it speaking from other relationships.
Speaking from other,
but
yeah.
It makes a ton of sense, because it can go both ways. If I make more money than you, then I feel like I can spend more money. Whereas the person who doesn't necessarily make as much money may not feel like they can spend money because they're not contributing as much.
Right.
So those are things to definitely think about. Within your own household, are you going through that? And if you are going through that, you always have to understand it's a deeper layer. It's not just money. Money is the result of whatever the problems are that you're not dealing with.
Right.
So you have to figure out what are the problems that you're dealing with, address those, and then tackle your finances. And what Darius and I recognized was what we needed to tackle was we needed to tackle our mentality and what we thought about money, and come together and recognize that, again, it's not an ego thing. It's just a different way of thinking. And how can we come together to start reading more books, studying, learning about money together, so that we can both have a similar opinion and not feel like we're playing on opposite teams constantly.
Exactly. Because the thing is, when you come into a relationship, and you're talking about finances, you want to improve your finances, you had years and years of experiencing money before them. So as you move forward experiencing money with your significant other, it's important for you to educate yourself so that you guys can establish a relationship moving forward with the experience that you have collectively together.
Yeah. And I think at that point when we started like Financial Peace, we had like the Total Money Makeover book. And so I remember I started reading it, and then I asked Darius to read it, and you actually read it, which was great. And so then we could have a conversation about it. And it was like, well, what do you think about this? So what do you think about this chapter? And it was more so a collective conversation. Like, let's go through this together. What did you like? What did I like? And what can we do together with this newfound knowledge that we have? And then it just became like, oh, well, let's listen to this podcast together. Oh, well, and let's read this book together. And that allowed us to again, reshape and reform what each of us thought about money, but together as a team.
Right. And we had to go to do the debt-free stream. That was a goal that we wanted initially. We didn't do it, but that was a goal that we wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So bringing your goals together, identifying your goals together, and actually having it someplace where you can see it and you can remind each other, and you're okay to have a conversation about the fact that, okay, this purchase does not put us closer to our goals. Mm-hmm. If anything, this purchase takes it away from us, and it's only a temporary thing. temporary dopamines that's going to give us some type of gratification. So moving forward, let's figure out a way to have a conversation together centered around how you can accomplish your goals. And I promise that will make things a lot easier for you. Even when you go, even when you're separate, you'll start thinking about the different things that you're purchasing, wondering if it will help you accomplish your goals.
And that's we really love this tactic, because then the other person doesn't have to point out the other person's mistakes. You know what I mean? Because based off of if you guys are tracking your spending together, if you've overspent and how that's going to affect everything. So you already are in the situation knowing like, oh man, I went over. So you're already kind of like beating yourself up, and the other person shouldn't. Ladies and gentlemen, you should not point it out.
Unless you want to start a fight.
Exactly.
Those fighting words.
But have the conversation of, oh, okay, we're behind. Maybe use that language instead of you did this, you did that. Hey, we're behind on this category where we're going to make it up. And that's where, again, it becomes less of attack, because the person already knows that they tapped into the cookie jar when they shouldn't have.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's a business. It's 100% a business, and we should look at it the exact same way as a business. There shouldn't be any emotions involved, because again, emotions have us don't always have us make the best decisions. So if we can take emotion out of it and take ego out of it, what we're left with is just a business on how are we going to take care of our overhead, and with the what's left over, we have cash flow to meet some of our goals that we set for ourselves, so that we don't continue to have to work for the rest of our lives. We should always be thinking, how can we use our money, leverage our money, so that we don't have to work for it as hard as we do.
Yeah. Now, I think we're having a conversation of two people who are interested in coming together to work things out. What would you say to individuals who there's somebody who's proactive, wants to do better, but the other person doesn't want to come to the table?
Now, see, that's really hard, because even before we got married, we knew what we wanted to accomplish together. And it wasn't financially what we wanted to accomplish. It's the lifestyle that we felt that we could have and enjoy together. So I think even if you have no intentions, or your significant other has no intentions of coming together with the finances, ask them what do you want to accomplish together? Because I don't know.
It's hard when you think about it.
It's hard, yeah.
And the things that I'm thinking about is you have to. It's psychology. Really, what this is a psychology. So what I would recommend is take a liking into psychology. Maybe look into some couples counseling, because that was also something that was helpful for Darius and I to recognize what triggers were. Triggers meaning what were the things that upset the other person that we didn't intentionally mean to do. It could just be a phrase that I might have said to Darius, or vice versa, and then it just sets us off, and now we're offended, and it's a problem. So what I would say for someone who is proactive, and you feel like you're constantly dragging your significant other along with you, is still to understand what are the triggers, because what could be happening is instead of looking at it as like they don't want to be involved, maybe they're just genuinely fearful.
Yeah, and it could be a symptom and not the actual root cause.
And that's why you have to figure out how can you communicate to your partner in a way where they don't feel threatened. And that's why I said it could just be fear. So if it's fear-based, I don't want to deal with money, again, start to have conversations as far as like, how are you raised with money? What did you see? What did you hear? So that you can start understanding how to work around those things. And we talk about what is your relationship with money inside our community. So if you're interested in joining our community, definitely click on the link below. But it's all these things that you need to understand, where it's not about the money. It's about the emotions behind the money. So how can you start tackling those emotions so that you can then work with your partner to come together and thrive? And once you are able to come to the conclusion where you feel like you're able to communicate with your spouse a little bit more productively, then figure out those goals. Because when you bridge those goals and the things that you all want to accomplish together that you love doing, then it becomes more of a fun activity, as opposed to just, why is he always asking me like, what am I spending? What am I doing? You know, what's going on? And it's more so like, hey, man, maybe we can go to Cabo sooner, or maybe we can go to another place, or maybe we can go here, or you know what? We did really well this week. Let's treat ourselves and go do something.
Right. And if you, the saying is, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And that's one thing I learned even with our team, our financial team that we have around us, is the fact that there's people that have specializations in certain things. And it's the same thing when we talk about just our team, we specialize in different things. And when you specialize in different things, you're able to move that much further because you have two different mindsets and two different experiences. Instead of having that be something that you guys clash over, have it be something that you guys can move in unison with.
Each one has ownership in different things, and it becomes less about you trying to like force feed your partner into getting them to do something, because that's never productive. And it becomes more so you guys are working together and creating a really amazing meal.
Right. So we're putting pressure in this way.
Together.
It doesn't work. You're not going anywhere. But when you put all your intention on that goal, you're able to move.
Make some forward motion.
Make some forward motion.
So
progress.
I really want to commend those of you out there who are in a relationship and maybe you feel like you're holding it down for your family. It is difficult. We see that in the comments. We see it all the time inside of our community and people who reach out to us. So I just want to let you know, you're not alone. There's millions of couples who go through this. But again, it's just about understanding how can you communicate with your spouse in a way that it resonates with them, where they don't feel attacked and they feel motivated to be involved. And once you get to that point, it is going to take time, but you just have to be patient to know that obviously you married this person or you're with this person for a reason. You love them, and just how can you make it work? And once you humble yourself, because that's the other thing too, is maybe you're just hella aggressive and you're turning that person off because they don't want to deal with any of that because you're just too aggressive. So how can you maybe humble yourself, do some research from a psychological standpoint in just marriage and communication, and know how to better communicate with your spouse so then they're motivated to be involved. Right.
And we keep using the word marriage and spouse because that's the relationship that we have. We're married to each other, but you may be in a relationship where you're not married, but you guys are in the same household. You guys being in the same household means that you guys need to come together and talk about the overhead, the expenses that your business is having or that your household is having. So even if you're friends, you're just roommates. Whatever the situation is, if you're in one house and you guys collectively pay all the bills together, then you guys are in a business together.
Yes.
Which is you have overhead, and then the difference is what you guys are able to keep so that you can accomplish some of your goals. So even if it's just friends that are roommates, you guys should share your goals with each other so that you can work towards those goals together.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the elephant in the room is if you are in a relationship or living with somebody who is dead weight,
you can get rid of them.
You need to address it. Address it in the form of they might get the boot, because the thing is, it's never going to go away. Right? Well, we always think that we can change people or we can make it work. It is never ever going to go away. You have to pay your bills every single month. You have to have a roof over your head every single month. It will never, I don't know if you guys heard me the first two times, it will never go away.
You're always going to have bills.
So stop trying to force the issue. If this person is dead weight and they are bringing nothing to the table as regards to even showing signs that you can work together from a financial standpoint, you need to move on. Because this is always going to bring strife and struggle and conflict to your relationship, and it shouldn't. And you should know this before you even get involved in a serious relationship. Like, never wait until you get to the altar to then go, hey, how much money are you making? How are we going to make this work? It should be conversations that you have way beforehand, way before you even get engaged, I would say, so that you can understand that you two will come together and work towards a goal.
Right. Now, another thing I've seen is that people are in relationships, and one of them is using another person as a project, thinking they can make them something that they aren't right now.
Not. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the saying? When someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
As opposed to thinking I have this project and thinking I can change them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's never going to change. So anyways, we hope that the information that we shared with you today was helpful, light, and enlightening as far as our story. Like we said, we didn't come together this way. It was about, 3 years where we had to figure it out, work through our communication styles, and really just hone on our goals. And it wasn't until we started to understand our goals where we didn't feel attacked in our relationship. We felt like we were actually working towards something, and then we got excited about working together. And then we got excited about the results. And then the results came and we said, how can we do more? How can we be better? How can we share? And that's why we're here today. Yep.
Your secret sauce is your ability to work together with your significant other. Mm-hmm. I would say all of our success came from our ability to work together.
Yeah. And I think it shows because sometimes our family and friends make conversations about just the side conversations we have about money and whatnot. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, I can't believe you guys have that conversation. It's like, how else are we going to make this work? So again, you have to be as open and honest as possible. It's going to be painful in the beginning because it's just something that you're not used to doing. But like we say, muscle memory, just keep getting in the gym and you're going to see gains.
Right. And try not to be emotional about money because money doesn't care who makes it. It only cares the fact that it needs to stay in motion. Mm-hmm. So the only emotion that can be added to money is the money that we give it. And if we can get our egos in check and try not to make emotional decisions, we'll be able to work together a lot better once we take the emotion out of it.
Absolutely. Now, if you want to learn how to compound your efforts once you've come together in marriage, then definitely check out our next video where we talk about how to create passive income.
Remember to own your own lifestyle.
Or someone else will.